Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here today. I see there's a bit of a queue of people trying to get in and out, so hopefully that figures itself out. Thank you for being here. My name is Eimear Loughnane, and this is Ru from Sitecore. Apologies to anyone in the room who's not from Ireland. We have the most difficult names for you to remember. And we're here today to tell you about Gensights, which was a Gen AI product that we co-built together to bring business value to Sitecore. So I think we all know that the pace and the rate of change, especially with AI, is really staggering. From healthcare to finance, customer services, education, all kinds of industries, we can see that AI is really beginning to reshape industries. And it's reshaping the roles that people are playing in the industries as well. If we look back to the widespread adoption of the internet, the introduction of the iPhone, the rise of cloud computing over the years, the rate of change and the expectations that have been placed on both customers and employees have been changing and increasing steadily over the years. And now, with the emergence of AI, we're witnessing another huge leap forward in that we, or businesses in general, we're simply not ready for. So in order to thrive in this new AI era, every organization in every industry has to evolve or build new capabilities, skills, and ways of working. I'm going to hand you over to Ru to talk a little bit about Sitecore.
Cheers, Eimear. For anyone who's not familiar with Sitecore, the clue is in the name. We are kind of leading content management system and digital asset management solution. What does that mean? It means that if you, as you peruse around the web, you are most likely going to come across a website or a business that is running their website on Sitecore. If you come across videos and images online from kind of well-known brands, it's a very good possibility those images are being provided to you, hosted for you by Sitecore. They like to put in this slide of all the brands that we work with. So if you go onto any of their sites, it's likely that Sitecore is serving that content to you. One of the big problems or opportunities, I guess, of working with all of these brands is the volume of data that they provide to us. So when we serve their website, we also provide them with the ability to capture analytics on end user activity, web pages, web page views, searches, commerce activity. Anything you do on that website would be tracked and stored as first-party data for that brand to be able to use for personalization, for improved customer experience. And those are the kind of things that we focus on. So we have these three pillars of activity that we support, the solutions we provide to our customers. The first is digital experience. So when you land on a website, it starts to give you content and recommendations that are relevant for you based on what you've looked at, where you've come from, and where we think you might have a better opportunity to convert. The second is commerce. So we have a set of commerce tools. So as you go onto those sites and you start to add things to your cart, you start to look at things that might be good for that cart, go with that product, be a substitute product, all of those things that you expect on a commerce site, that is also part of the Sitecore solution that we provide. And then digital marketing. So if you are getting emails or you're setting up a digital marketing campaign on a paid marketing space and you want to generate audiences and then send that data out to Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever you're going to be doing your marketing or into Google Ads, all of that data, that customer data is kind of housed by Sitecore, and we provide our customers the ability to analyze that data. And the volume of that data can be quite large, and the number of products we have is like 11 products that they can use, and each one of them has a lot of data that's available to them. And so the problem that we were trying to solve for our users of our applications were that we provide them with a lot of that data. And so if you imagine if you don't use Sitecore, that's okay, but let's say you use Google Analytics. And if you go into the Google Analytics page or you go into Sitecore page, the left-hand bar is full of dashboards, full of ways in which you can view data. And most dashboards are where good questions go to die. You don't find the insight to review it unless you have a process where every week you're reviewing that data. It becomes stale. You miss things that are happening. And what we wanted to do was we said, look, we have 20 dashboards in each of our products. Each of those is a time series database. They have sites, they have time. You can look at it by day, by week, by month, all of this data, which is all available to the user. but the process by which they have to go through to find interesting stuff on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis in order to generate ideas to move their business forward, improving their commerce engines, improving their experience, that takes a lot of time. And so what we wanted to do was, if we have someone who's a user of our application and they're coming into Sitecore and they're spending maybe 3 hours, and that's a low estimate. Most people who are looking at dashboards or business analysts generating reports, it takes a lot more than 3 hours to look at that data and then to find something that they think is worth taking action about. So we wanted to automate as much of that as possible, or at least take some of the heavy lifting so that people could go and do something more creative with their time. They could find more business value elsewhere. And that's the opportunity that AI provided to us. And so with the solution that we wanted to achieve, we wanted to do 3 fairly simple things. The first thing was that we wanted to pass in data. So given X, do Y, and give us back Z. And so when we thought about what we wanted to give into the LLM, we wanted to give in dashboard data. We wanted to give in aggregated non-PII data that we could ask it to do stuff with. And so we did that dashboard data first, and then we asked it to do stuff. So we said, can you summarize this data? And it did it really well. And we had to play around with temperatures and p-values to bring it down and stop it hallucinating. But generally, we kind of got it there to where we thought, actually, it's giving a pretty good summarization. And then we asked it to go one step further. We said, actually, we want trends, insights, anomalies, and correlations. That thing that a human does where they spend hours and hours looking over data and then finding patterns, finding things that are interesting. Look at an executive summary for those executives who don't have time to look at all those bullet points, and then make recommendations of what we think someone should be able to do on the back of that. And we got to this really quickly. So we said, actually, we need better data. And so we looked at data definitions and tooltips from the dashboards, the dashboard documentation, and then giving a context of what Sitecore products are available. Why is that important? So the LLM is trained generally on the internet, and so we need to do more. We need to provide it more context. And for our users, we need it to be able to say, this happened with the data. What we recommend is a hypothesis test. On this page, we recommend a CTA to be deployed. We recommend these colors, and we recommend you do it in the personalized product and deploy it on this site. That's the level of detail that we wanted it to make real value add for our end users. And we then wanted to present that back to our users in HTML, so it was available within the application. Now, this is actually much more difficult than I think we anticipated it was going to be, but getting it to write HTML that was correct, that would look nice in an application was quite hard. And we wanted a link to source data. So if you were in the session earlier on, transparency is really, really important. To be able to show the source data so that it could say it's not hallucinating. I've had multiple chats with GPT and others where you ask it something, it gives you an answer, and you say, where did you get that answer? And it says, apologies, I actually made that up. It's not a reference material. So that wasn't acceptable, and so we needed the links to the original data. And graphs were appropriate. It's very good at generating text, but we wanted it to be more interactive. And so with the kind of what we wanted to do, I'll hand over to Eimear for the how we did it.
Thanks, Ru. So at Slalom, our goal is to really understand and accelerate our customers' needs and really look into business outcomes. And what we did with Gensight was we aimed to create a personalized story for Sitecore's own customers. And we did that, as Ru said, by analyzing multiple sources of data and providing Sitecore-specific recommendations. We started with a kickoff in January, and we were able to demo to Sitecore within weeks. And we did that by leveraging the team's expertise, Sitecore's expertise, and we also had some accelerators that we've built at Slalom to make it faster to get Gen AI infrastructure into your code base. How did we do it? First, we built a RAG implementation, which is retrieval augmented generation. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically just a way to get your own proprietary data accessible by the large language model. We used Slalom's accelerators to do that, and we created prompts then to get the LLM to perform the required analysis that we wanted to get it to do. We used a really lean model of development. We released to a subset of trusted internal users first to get feedback. We took on board their feedback, and we actually had to do quite a bit more work based on their feedback. We realized that the prompts needed quite a bit more tuning to get the right response back from the large language model. From there, we performed extensive testing, we built guardrails, and we did a lot of evaluations on the large language model before pushing the code to production. So our agile approach, combined with the accelerators that we've got, and in collaboration with Sitecore and AWS, enabled really rapid progress here. And all of this was done in 8 weeks. We used a lot of different AWS services that I'll talk about a little bit later, but AWS core services really provided the backbone for the success of this project. So what does it look like? I won't go into too much detail here, but basically, all the data sources originally we had in an S3 bucket. And what we did is we pulled some of that data into Aurora to create embeddings, effectively a vector database. From there, the knowledge base could pick up these embeddings. We augmented the data with the prompt before sending it to the large language model to talk and get the responses back, do the analysis. We got the summary back, we got the recommendations back, and then we could send that directly to the customer. So here's what the summary looked like. So you can see here we have an executive summary with the key insights. I'll call out a couple of them. The large language model was able to detect that there'd been a major increase in overall site sessions over the past week. The login page has seen a huge boost in traffic recently. There's a large gap between visitors and events, indicating low conversion rates. And you can see there's a few others there. But what's really key here is then that the large language model, because it's also been fed in data from Sitecore's products, it's able to determine which other products should this customer use and able to go deeper into this and potentially solve their business problems. So what the recommendations here are telling the user, using Sitecore's CDP analytics and reporting, which is the same tool, analyze the performance of these campaigns in depth to understand which aspects are driving the most traffic. And then it's telling the user what metrics to look at. Look at metrics like sessions, conversions, ROI, etc. And then it says, based on the findings, optimize the high-performing campaigns further by personalizing landing pages and content using Sitecore Personalize. So it's pointing the user to another Sitecore product here. So this is the three-way kind of team we had put together in order to build this project. On the Slalom side, we had 4 people. We had an engagement lead leading the project. When we had our Gen AI engineers and a QA engineer. So Slalom's real expertise here was around Gen AI. So we build lots of these projects. So our engineers have a lot of expertise in it. We have our accelerators that I mentioned. The QA engineer is a really interesting one. I think for any of you who actually build software, you'll realize that testing non-deterministic software is really, really difficult. So you can't just say, check that the result A equals the expected result, because they just need to be semantically similar rather than exactly similar. So there's a whole new QA and testing method needed here. On the Sitecore side, we had a project manager, a product manager, a lot of software engineers, and a designer. So Sitecore were really able to bring their expertise of their own product, their own code base, and they brought a bit of fun as well, I think. And then we had AWS, we had our solutions architect, we had our account manager, who were really there to help us with AWS services. They were great advisors along the project and helped us get the right architecture in place. We did face a few challenges along the way. We really strived to build a cost-effective yet highly performant system that still gave maximum business benefit. So we had a lot of in-depth design reviews between Sitecore, Slalom, and AWS to find the best infrastructure that would give us the best bang for our buck. We managed to do this using Aurora, and we also made a strategic decision to only use the RAG infrastructure really where it was needed. There were certain cases where we were able to directly inject the information into the prompt if there wasn't too much information. So it's just one of those learnings that you don't always have to use the same solution. Sometimes you can optimize by using different strategies. Gen AI and building Gen AI systems is still a fairly new skill. So we were able to get around that by doing a lot of education sessions with Gen AI technologies, vector databases, really setting the Sitecore team up for success to enable them to be able to own this project going forward and own this software. We hit a few technical issues. The context data sometimes was too large for the window. How do we make sure if we shorten that data, we're getting the right data that the large language model use? needs. So we were actually able to use a different large language model to be able to summarize it, to make sure that the right data was being sent to the large language model. We hit volume limits with the large language model as well. We were able to do a little bit of throttling in order to solve that. But I think the biggest challenge really was the prompts and how to actually fine-tune the prompts to get the best possible response from the model. This is a skill that I think people are going to need more and more of, and it really can make a difference, the type of response you get back. There's some really creative ways you can work with prompts to kind of get the information across, to tell it not just what you need from the large language model, but how you want to receive it, what format, what kind of tone, etc. So happy to chat about that if anyone wants to talk about it. I mentioned that AWS really was the backbone of making this project a success. There's a few services here just to call out that we used. We used step functions, Lambda, SQS. I've mentioned Aurora already. Bedrock, of course, to get to the large language models. S3 buckets to store our data. And then Claude was the large language model that we used. So I'm going to hand you back to Ru to talk a little bit about what made this project a success.
Cheers. We didn't give Slalom a huge amount of time. We said we needed to get it out the door in 8 weeks from the first week in January until the end of February. So the timing was really quite challenging. But we were very clear in what we wanted to get out of 8 weeks. We knew we needed to be in production by the end of February. And could we have done it by ourselves? No, we couldn't have done it by ourselves. We have a very exceptional set of data engineers. They're exceptional at data processing. They do that very, very well. But they don't have, in that team, they don't have the skill set to be able to handle prompt engineering. The learning curve is too big. And so, one, we wanted to be outcome focused. We knew what we wanted to do. We had the idea that we wanted to get into production. I've talked about agility and speed. We had challenges around making sure that we hit that 28th of February date, no matter what. We knew we roughly wanted it to cost a certain amount of money to run this system, and so we were fairly clear on that, and that was very helpful to be able to have those conversations with Slalom. And the power of partnerships. So as I said, we couldn't have done it by ourselves, certainly not in 8 weeks. It would have taken someone 6 months, an engineering team 6 months, to even just get up to the speed of understanding how to use Bedrock, how to use aggregation of data, what are the best practices for prompt engineering. And as Eimear said, the level of QA testing is fundamentally different to everything we've done before. So you have data, you put the data into a process, the data comes out on the other side, and you know exactly what it's going to look like. The fact that it comes out the other side and it's slightly different is a small nightmare, especially when you're trying to ensure the data is correct and the system isn't hallucinating. So prompt in, data different on the outside makes it very difficult. But the other thing was about our expertise. And so we knew we couldn't do it ourselves, as I said, but we knew we needed to know a lot more. And so when we talked to Slalom about bringing them in to work on this project, we said, one, we want to be outcome focused, we want to get there in 8 weeks. But the second thing we need to be able to do is we want to be able to upskill our team. We want to be able to supercharge that knowledge of that team so that when they get to the end of 8 weeks, they are experts in being able to do this, being able to manage it, and being able to understand if we wanted to build more into the future, that they had a much stronger capability to be able to do that at the end of 8 weeks than they did at the start. And the team is fundamentally different now in terms of their ability to talk about Aurora, to talk about Bedrock, to talk about prompt engineering. They are a fundamentally different team. And so the power of partnerships is really important here, where we have AWS helping us with the infrastructure side, Slalom helping us with the skills, development, generative AI skills, and then we bring the kind of outcome focused. So for us, really, really important project, really focused, really important to have a partner in there that could do it with us, which was the Slalom team. And so with that, I think there is a thank you slide, but I think we're well ahead of time. So we might take questions if we're allowed to take questions, but they might kick us off the stage. I don't know.
No, we're allowed to take questions. So has anyone got any questions for Eimear from Slalom or Ru from Sitecore? Yep, I'll come down here with the microphone.
Hiya, I'm Mark from Taxback International. So what are you using for testing then? I mean, there's a big problem, the fact that you're going to come back with that variance every time, and that's something we've all got to get used to. How did you get past that barrier?
So there's a few different frameworks you can use. Basically, rather than checking that an outcome is exactly a certain sentence, you're checking that it's semantically similar to what you expect. So you can actually use vector databases to do this, because vector databases, you're storing information in a way that allows you to compare meaning. So you can use other large language models, and there's loads of frameworks out there that will actually set it up for you. So you will have some set questions, right? So where you know the answers. So the tester will set up, here's a typical question, here's a typical answer. In this case, it's a report, right? So what should a good report look like? What would positive insights look like from this data that this customer is using? So say you do a few of them manually. You would store that data, that report, in a vector database, and then the testing process looks at what the Gen AI outputs and compares the reports to make sure they're semantically similar to each other.
What I would say, just to add on top of that, is that what we're trying to do here is supplement a human. And so that human then reads that report and says, I know that to be true, or I know that's not true. And if I know it's not true, or I think that looks a bit weird, let me go and have a look at the dashboard. So what we're trying to do is like take the bulk of that work of analyzing out. But if you have 3 people in a company and you provide them with the same set of data and you ask them to tell me a story, they're definitely not going to come back, all 3 of them, with the same answer. They have a bias in themselves that they're going to bring. And so there is no one right answer with data. There is a story to be told. And so we need to look at that as well. And also then on the roadmap we have for just reviewing the results. And so this is a cycle system. So when someone looks at those things, they take those recommendations. The recommendations are going to be to take an action. And the recording of that action, like a campaign or an A/B test, will also tell us that actually that was a very successful action. We made a recommendation, ran an A/B test, it worked or it didn't, and we learned. And that's the same you would expect with anyone who comes into your business, is make educated decisions, make educated guesses, but there is always that person who's reviewing that project, or reviewing that output, to say, actually, yeah, I'm going to go and take that action. But the power and the value is in removing that 3 or 4 hours for them to get to that answer. It's Monday morning by 10 o'clock. They've already where they would have been by 3 or 4 o'clock that day.
I think another thing is the references that you talked about earlier, which is when they see the report, every insight, you'll have a clickable link that will take you to where it found that information, so a human can validate it as well.
Awesome question. Does anyone else have any more questions? One in the middle, yeah.
You said you're giving out Yeti cups for every question, did you? Is that?
Hi, thanks. 2 questions. Can it categorise the issues, and can it do root cause analysis?
I caught the first one. Can it categorise the issues?
And cost analysis, I think.
Cross analysis.
Cost? Oh, root cause analysis. Sorry, I thought you said cost analysis.
It can potentially categorize them if you were to ask it. I'm sorry, I've missed the second one again. Root cause analysis. This particular version did not do root cause analysis. It did give some suggestions, and I don't know if you saw the slide where it was looking at actions to take. Some of those kind of hinted at root cause analysis, but no, this particular version doesn't. If you were to do root cause analysis, you would probably need more data. And I don't think you could do root cause analysis for everything, because I'd imagine there's some macro factors out there that would cause some of these issues too.
Yeah, so as I said at the start, like the majority of the data that we hold for our customers, they're all multi-tenant, so there's no data sharing between our customers. So it is all first-party data they're using. And so the value of that is good insofar as that it's safe and it's their data and they can extract that. But if you're looking at someone like a car manufacturer like Porsche, you might have something happen in the news that then affects why people are coming to your website. You might have a new car launch, and that external data or that additional data is very valuable. It doesn't necessarily live within the Sitecore ecosystem today, but there's no stopping us connecting that out and bringing that additional data in and making sure that it's kind of clean and in the right order. It wasn't part of this project, but if I understand your question about the root cause analysis, the machine sees a correlation or a causation. But actually, why is that happening? May require additional data sets, probably outside of our control, but definitely within the scope of what our customers would have access to and could upload.
I've got a question for you, Ru. Obviously, when AWS customers are thinking about selecting a partner, you know, they have several considerations in their mind. Often they'll look at time, they'll look at cost, and they'll look at quality. When you were picking a partner for this particular project, what were some of the considerations or the thought processes in your mind that you could share with us today?
I think picking a partner is, technically, you need to find someone who actually can help you. But the second thing that you need to find is someone that is going to be a good team in the muck, like a good team in the trenches. And so there was multiple times over the 8 weeks where myself and Eimear would have a phone call, and I would just say, Eimear, this needs to be fixed, and I need you to do this. And Eimear would be like, well, I need you to do this on your side, and you guys aren't doing that, and that's fine. But having that relationship, or at least meeting someone and saying, I think we could work together. Actually, I think that what we would achieve as an outcome is far greater. And that's something that we've worked with Slalom over a few years. We did a hackathon a few years ago, which was like 2 weeks, and that was even more condensed. And we were delighted with the kind of the pushback, the camaraderie, the kind of outcome focused, and that made it fairly simple for us.
Awesome, great. Any other questions for Ru and Eimear before we wrap up? No, I'll take that as going gone. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Eimear from Slalom and Ru from Sitecore.
Cheers, thank you.